Welcome to the first official meeting of our book club. So the club is primarily active inside of the Holistic Home Journey community. And the reason for that is so that we can kind of like grow and learn and heal together. I am also live with TikTok, but if you want to be able to watch the replay and really participate in the conversation, then you have to be watching in the group. And as we dive deeper into the book, I'm not going to be streaming live to TikTok anymore because I want this to be a place of healing and a place where you can be vulnerable. But being that nobody from the group is on live with us, I think it's okay if we stream to TikTok as well. All right, so let's kind of like jump right in. We're going to do a little bit of kind of book club basics real quick before we jump into the lessons. So how to use the group. The group is intended to be a place where you can kind of share and we can learn from each other. Not everybody in the book club is actually reading the book. Some people, whether their library doesn't have it, they can't afford to purchase the book, they don't have the time, or they don't have kind of like they don't want to read. They're still in the book club because we can bring value to each other and we can teach each other as we're going through this. So one way we can do that is that as you sort of go along and you're reading the book, if a quote sticks out to you, or you come to a realization, or there's a really powerful like lesson, share that. And also if you have a question, and you're going to be sharing this inside of the private community, so you go in the community, you click on groups, and you click on book club, and that's where we're going to share all of these things. That way it's like a safe place that you could be vulnerable. Only book club members can see that. And then any questions. And then really the way that we sort of like drive this together is to be commenting and supporting on other people's things. If somebody has a question, try and jump in and help them and give your insight. Your insight is valuable. Sometimes we think like, oh, they already know this, or they've already thought of this. But when you say something to somebody, it could just spark something in their brain that they didn't maybe think of in that moment. Oh, Lydia, you read it already? I am so excited. I actually feel like change is happening in my life, and I'll talk about it in a minute as we get deeper into the lesson, without even like really starting the book and diving into the book. I think just like that intention being there, and sort of like putting that focus on, okay, like we're ready to do this. I think is really powerful. I was thinking about doing therapy, and while therapy is a great option for a lot of people, I just didn't feel like it was a good option for me, so I'm going to try this way. I've been wanting to read it, but nervous. This is my sign. Yeah, and if you can join the book club, do it. I think it's really going to be, right now, I think we have 11 or 12 in the book club, and I'm really excited to have that close-knit community to kind of like heal together. So every week when we do this live book club, if you're in the community, you'll get a Zoom link. So you can actually put on your camera, like we can have a conversation. And like I said, this week I'm streaming to TikTok as well because nobody's live here. But if there are people live in the community, I'm not going to stream to TikTok because I want you to be able to talk to me and be vulnerable here. And I know it's weird when there's more people listening in. So, and then if you're not comfortable kind of speaking, putting your camera on and being active that way, you're welcome to still use the chat inside of the Zoom. So each week, the way that the session is sort of structured is that I will be teaching a lesson, and I'm doing that based on obviously what we are reading in the book for that week. There's a schedule of reading once you join the book club, but each week I will be teaching a lesson, and that's kind of to drive in what I think the really important lessons are, and also for the people who are not reading the book, so that you can get some value there and kind of tune in just for that lesson. So, but I don't want this to be one-sided, so there will be space and time inside of the meetings for you to share your reflections and what stuck out to you and like the important pieces of the book for you. I want this to be communal, and I want to be really clear that I am on a healing journey. This is not me saying, hey, I have all of the answers, I'm an expert here and I'm going to help you heal. This book club started because I am healing traumas. I am finding myself stuck in my life in certain areas, and I want to do this healing. So I sort of opened it up and said, okay, does anybody else want to kind of do it with me? So this is this is for me and for you. So I don't want it to be me preaching to you. So really, I want you to be involved here. We're all on a healing journey. So remember to be like patient and kind with each other. And if you want to call somebody out for something, always ask first. So I'll give you an example. And by the way, that doesn't apply for me. If you want to call me out on things, I love when people call me out on things. I made a video on TikTok yesterday and I said, I wanted to leave my 19-month-old home while the rest of the family all went to dinner. And I was kind of like feeling guilty about it, but that I shouldn't have to justify it, right? And then like at the end of the video, I was like, she wouldn't have fun at the restaurant anyway. And somebody in the comments was like, Crystal, you just justified it. And I'm like, you know what? I did. I just justified it. I love that. Not everybody does. I've been on this journey since 2018. I can accept that. Some people who are just starting out in the journey, you might want to ask them like, hey, do you mind if I point something out to you that might kind of like help you? And then if they say yes, then you can kind of point that out to them. All right, so let's talk about like preparing for a journey like this one, preparing for this kind of healing. Remember that this book club in particular is about healing and growth. Some book clubs are about how do I join? I've got the app and I'm on the premium plan. So go to on the left-hand side, or if you're on the app, you click the 3 little dots and then you go to events, or you can go to groups and then book club and then events. So this is about healing and growing. We're not trying to like get through this book as fast as possible. We're not trying to, just sort of like top level read the book just to say that we've read it. We are on a healing journey. If it takes you the full week or 2 weeks to read a chapter, then let it take that long. Stop in between readings. Oh, she made it on. Stop in between readings and reflect and journal, and we'll talk about that. You're probably going to feel chaos and uncertainty sort of like as you're going through. Hey, Eliza, let me know if you're uncomfortable with me streaming to TikTok. I'm happy to turn that off. I can absolutely turn it off when we get more into the reflections. So you might feel like chaos, uncertainty, anger, frustration, like big feelings are going to come up as you start going through this process. And the reason is because we are so in line with these habits and these beliefs and these sort of like systems in our brain that have been with us, since childhood. And now all of a sudden we're trying to break away from that. And your ego, who is meant to protect you, wants to stay comfortable, even if that comfort is unhealthy for you, right? So as you're breaking through, just be aware that if you're feeling chaos, resistance, like you're stuck, these are all things that we can help work through. But we don't want to take that ever as a sign to stop, because we want to push through that. We want to start making these habits that aren't serving us anymore. We want to make that uncomfortable. And eventually we will be able to kind of rewire our brain. One thing that I have been doing, and I would suggest that you do as well, is to warn your family. Tell your spouse or your parents or your kids, if they're old enough, like, hey, I'm starting this journey. I'm starting this healing journey. I might act a little crazy. I notice for myself, when I'm healing like this and I'm addressing like old triggers and old traumas, all the little things feel so big to me. Like I will cry over like not having creamer for my coffee, or like I will get angry over like something being in the wrong place in the pantry, like things that I normally wouldn't be so emotional about, like seem big. And it's because I'm trying to release these other feelings that are stemming from bigger things. And so let your family know, like, hey, this is what's going on and this is how you can help me, right? My husband is like a problem solver. Like he will, if I go to him and I'm like, I'm feeling this, I'm having this, he will always try to fix it. And so like one way I can tell him, like, listen, sometimes I just want to vent to you, like maybe ask me before you start trying to solve the problems, because I don't want you to solve them. I might just want to vent, or I might just need to step away from the kids for 15 minutes and sort of like let myself feel my feelings. but definitely get them involved. Be sure that as you go through the process, you're celebrating your wins. A lot of times, many of us are taught to be people pleasers, and we're taught to sort of like make ourselves small. And so we might find ourselves like minimizing our wins and saying like, well, that's not like a big deal. Other people just do this normally. So me doing this now is like not a big deal. It's just that I was failing before and now I'm not failing. Wins don't have to look any kind of way. They should just be authentic to you and feel like wins to you. That's the only justification of a win that you need to have. So, and then the last thing is to just like schedule time to work on this. Otherwise it will get lost. Like you need to schedule some time away from your kids, away from your spouse. Like even if it's 15 minutes a day, maybe it's, for me, I think when I'm going to do it is like when I go upstairs to take a shower, I can kind of just close the door, and for 15 minutes before I hop in the shower, I can do this. There's like, I'm already leaving the room. So I'm going to try doing it that way, but definitely schedule some time to work on it. Some materials that you can have, but you don't have to have. You don't have to have anything. The reading schedule and agenda. So that's already it's in the community, and you can print it out. And this just tells you what we're reading on which week and kind of like how the meeting is structured. The future self journal, you can print this out for free on the, let me see, I got to keep my face in there. You can print this out for free on the Holistic Psychologist website. We're going to talk about this today, and we're going to do some practices from this journal today. An empty journal. So if you can just get, like, I picked this up for like $5 on Michael's, at Michael's, just get like an empty journal so you have a place to write things down. The book, again, if you can and if you want to, otherwise we are going to talk about lessons from here. You're going to get value here without reading it. And then if you want to, there's a workbook, which I didn't realize that the author didn't actually write the workbook. It's written by like a third party. So we'll kind of take this loosely, but I got it anyway, so we'll use it. And then like markers, highlighters, if that stuff helps you. Bonus tip, when I read books and I want to like mark them up, I get these special, it's called Mr. Pen non-bleed, and they're meant for writing in Bibles. I know, you know, I'm not religious, but if you look up like Bible pens and Bible markers, they don't bleed through the pages of the book. So I have that. All right, so let's kind of like dive in. Let's talk about sort of the power of our mind, how our mind works, and sort of like how this process can work. Because how can reading a book, how can doing a journal really help us heal? Like, how does that even make sense, right? We can't go back in time and change these traumas that happened to us. So how does this work? If you've been following me for any amount of time, you know that I have a journal that I put out. It's called Work in Progress Journal. And it's based on a daily practice that I've been doing since 2018. I started with doing one piece of it, and over the years sort of added. And that daily practice legitimately like changed my life. And when I first started doing it, I felt like, this is so silly. This is stupid. I first started, the first thing I ever did to start my personal growth journey is at the end of every night, I had a note on my phone and I would write one good thing that happened that day. Didn't matter the day. Like I'll never forget, there was a day that I had this procedure, and it was like an OB procedure. And in the procedure, the numbing agent didn't work. So I felt everything, and the machine broke halfway through. So instead of using a machine that was supposed to be like one swipe and done, they had to sit there with a scissor. Okay. And I just remember it was so traumatic. And it was the end of that day, and I'm sitting there sore, like shaking, like traumatized. And I'm like, what freaking good could there be in this day? But I forced myself. I'm like, I'm going to find something good. And I think my good that day was just that I had so much family around me, that like my mother-in-law came over and my husband was like taking care of me, and like like the good part about that day was like the feeling of like my husband taking care of me in that moment. So finding good in even the toughest days is really what started my journey and started helping me. So how does that work? Like, how can we just start thinking about the good, thinking about where we want to be, and then our life changes? And a lot of that has to do with neuroplasticity. And so that is your brain's ability to sort of like repair itself, grow, um, rewire. And so right now, a lot of us, especially if you're on this journey of healing from traumas, um, the pathways, hey Eliza, the pathways that we are strengthening every day by living in our old habits are those pathways and those traumas that we learned as children, or in abusive relationships, or in toxic workplaces, or by all of the whatever your variation of the story is. So every time we live that same pattern, we're strengthening that pathway in our brain. So when we start going through this journey, we're saying, I don't want to take this path in my brain anymore. I don't want my child throwing food on the floor to give me a physical reaction because it brings back memories of me being beat as a child for throwing food on the floor. I don't want that pathway anymore. So I'm going to start reacting differently. I'm going to start thinking about this differently. And so now we are saying, I don't want to go this way. I'm going to go this way. And now this pathway is not as strong, right? So that's where we start to feel crazy, because our brain and our ego is like, no, just we're used to going this way. Just go this way. And we're like, no, come this way. And the more and more we repeat these new behaviors, and we strengthen this new pathway, that old pathway will become less comfortable. So we are literally able to rewire our brain through introducing these new ways of looking at things, new intentions, and then repeating them. Constantly repeating them. And that's why when we talk about journaling, I know a lot of people say it's not for me, journaling's not for me. I'm going to give you some variations of things that you can do if you don't like to journal. But you have to find a way to repeat these new pathways in your life, because if you do it once and you say, next time my kid throws that food, I'm not going to react this way, it's not going to work for you, because it's going to be more comfortable to go the other way. Then the other thing is that that makes all of this sort of thought work so powerful is the fact that your body doesn't really know the difference between what's physically happening in front of you and what your mind is like imagining, and the thoughts that are playing through your mind. So if you've ever, and I don't know if you guys do this, but like sometimes I'll just be in the shower and I'll be reimagining conversations that happened from the day, and I'll be like having arguments with people that like didn't even happen, and like my body will physically just get like that anxiety, and I'm like, my heart is racing, and it's almost like it's happening, and that's because my body doesn't know that it's not happening. And so when we give our body the thoughts, right, controlled thoughts that will elicit the response that we want, then that's going to help as well. So through this journaling, and doing the work and reading the book and affirmations and all of that, really what we're trying to do is harness behavioral changes, right? So when we start thinking about behavioral changes, and when we dive into like, what can I change? How can I improve my current situation? I want you to remember that you can change your behaviors. You cannot change other people's behaviors. So let's say you're going through this journey and some of your triggers are coming out, like with your spouse. You can't change your spouse. You can't, the change that you make in your life right now cannot be, well, I'm going to make sure that my spouse never leaves dirty laundry on the floor again. That's not going to happen, right? So you need to work on what's your piece. I'm going to, set myself up to not be triggered by putting the laundry into the basket, or I'm going to just remove the basket and be cool with laundry sitting on the floor, right? Like, what can you do? Because you're not going to change their behaviors. And especially with children, if you're being triggered right now by your children yelling at the top of your lungs, your changes that we're going to talk about making in a few minutes are not going to be to make a no screaming in the house rule. Your change is going to be, I'm going to step outside when my children start screaming, or I'm going to practice breathing when my children start screaming, because your behavioral, changing these habits is on you. All of this is about you. And then we talked about it before, but in order to kind of like protect yourself, your ego and your body wants to do that familiar path. And so we want to make sure that we start small. We start with like one thing, one very small thing. Sometimes we go into these journeys, and often we see it like with wellness journeys too, where we'll go in and we're going to be like, I'm not going to eat sugar. I'm not going to eat gluten. I'm going to work out for 45 minutes every single day. I'm going to do this. I'm going to do this. And what happens when we do that and we want to do all the things at one time, your body's like, no, nope, this is not safe. This is not comfortable. And you're going to burn out and you're going to shut down. So pick one thing and you will see. I think there's a saying says like, I don't know what the saying now, but like when the tide rises, like all the boats rise. So it's like just focus on like improving yourself in one area, and then everything else will start to fall in place as well. And then we can add something else, but don't do it all at once. And ego is going to tell you do it all at once, because you want to prove something. But don't give in to that. There are going to be times in this journey that you're not going to show up for your new habits. You're going to say, I'm going to get up at 5 a.m. and do my journal, and you're not going to do it. You're going to say you're going to do something and you're going to act a completely different way. Try not to like associate that with like, I'm lazy, I can't do this, this journey's not for me. Try to just like accept it as something that happened, and then move on and let tomorrow or the next opportunity be a way to sort of like reset that. You also might feel as you go about this journey, like you're faking it. Like you might say, like one of my affirmations, and we'll talk about how we use affirmations in our day in a minute. Like one of my affirmations is like, I am light and fun. And like a lot of days I don't feel that way. I feel very stressed out. I feel like I make things more serious than they have to be. I feel like I can't let loose. Even if I'm in the middle of a dance party, like I still feel like I'm overthinking how I'm dancing, right? So when I give myself that affirmation of I am light and fun, I feel like a faker. Like I feel like, why am I doing this? But remember that this is because we are trying to teach our brain how we want to think, where we want to be. We're trying to rewire, we're trying to give our brain a different reality. And the same way that what I call my daily good felt uncomfortable a couple of years ago, and like I was faking it a couple of years ago, now it feels very routine. And so we have to just kind of like stay consistent with it. So we're going to move into reflections. The reflections part of the meeting. So here we can share any kind of like key takeaways, quotes, aha moments, thoughts, anything. I know we haven't actually started reading the book. I will go first and I'll share some things that I feel like I've realized by just thinking about doing this journey. And then Eliza, if you are comfortable, you can go next and you can either put on your speaker or you can do the chat. So one thing that I kind of like a win, I guess, is that I realized that I always I label my control as organization. So I have these time blocks that I do in my calendar, and I literally just time block like every waking moment of my day. Like from the time I wake up to the time I go to sleep is literally time blocks in my calendar. This is when you eat. This is when you do school with your kids. This is when you go do errands. This is when you do chores. And I say I'm organized, but really I feel like that's a means of control. And so this week I didn't remove all my time blocks. I still have the morning ones and then like the evening ones, but I removed all of the midday ones and I feel a lot more free. And then my other big realization this week is yesterday, I realized that I think that me starting this book club is part of my patterning, that I cannot help myself unless I'm helping everybody around me. And I cannot help myself unless I feel like everybody around me is taken care of. So I'm super excited about this book club, but I did come to that realization yesterday. I was like, maybe this is deeper rooted than I thought. Eliza, were you up for sharing?
Sure. Well, you talking about controlling, especially like your partner and stuff, like leaving dirty socks around. That definitely resonates with me because this last year I've just been working on trying to change my parenting style and my life because I finally have my own space. But I decided to do that with a partner. And for the first few months, I was really struggling to try and change his ability to organize and clean and keep track of time like I do.
It's so fun.
But I've had to let loose on the time blocks and stuff myself. That's actually what I've been working with my therapist. But instead of telling myself I'm fun and stuff for my affirmation, because I'm not, and I wouldn't believe myself, I keep trying to remind myself that I've been through a lot of crap, and somehow I always figure out a way to get through it. And so I just try to remind myself that I've always figured out a way through it, and I will probably continue to. It's the pattern that I've shown myself, and that I can trust myself to make the right choices and learn from my mistakes. So it's my biggest help.
That's so powerful, like realizing that you can trust yourself.
It's a slow process.
But I love
My
that.
daughter heard me saying that to myself, that I was talking to my boyfriend, and I was like, I don't trust myself I feel like I should. And now my daughter's like, I don't trust you. Like,
How old is your daughter?
she's I've had a lot of apologizing to do. Lost my temper a lot of times, but I think she's also had a lot of family where she didn't grow up with me for her first 3 years. She was with her dad and her nana, and he left her and at her nana's, and then she got abused, and then she came to live with me suddenly, and then I went from not being at all prepared to being a mother to learning to be a mom to a toddler while having a toddler and while being triggered by everything that was going on. So it's been fun, and my therapist has been a big help.
That's awesome. Well, I'm
The
so
group
proud of
on
you.
the group on TikTok too, of all the mothers talking about respectful parenting, and I actually like that you call it holistic parenting, talking about the whole body. That's what really kind of got me started into to thinking that this was something that I could do, because the gentle parenting, I'm not a gentle person to anybody, and that just seemed like people pleasing to me. And I like the respectful, because that's how I would like to be treated.
Yeah, sometimes I laugh because, and that's why I think I didn't resonate with like the gentle term either, because I'm like, I definitely do not sound gentle. Like my tone in general is pretty like stern. Even if I'm happy, my tone is pretty like stern, direct, like kind, respectful, but definitely not like I would imagine if somebody said like gentle and sweet or something.
Yeah, it's not your customer service voice, and I can't do that to my kids.
That's excellent. Well, thank you so much for sharing. That's so powerful.
Thank you.
All right, so we're going to move into the action portion of the meeting. Somebody on TikTok says, that's one thing that holds me back from even trying affirmations. I feel like I'm lying to myself. You know what, though? You're also lying to yourself when you say, I can't do this. I'm not enough. Like those are not truths either. So why not like lie to yourself and say, I am light and fun. I am capable. I can trust myself, right? Until you believe those things. So maybe that's a different way to look at it. All right. So for the action portion of the meeting today, we're going to take some stuff from the Future Self Journal. And so I highly recommend that you download this whole thing. You go to theholisticspsychologist.com, I think is the website. It's definitely linked in the group if I'm wrong about that, but I'm pretty sure that's what it is. Theholisticspsychologist.com, you scroll like to the middle and it says, get my free journal, get it. There's also a kids one, which I printed out as well, but I haven't done it with her yet. And I would suggest like really reading through this whole thing and then using the prompts. I don't know, we're gonna go through it today. I don't know that this daily practice is personally gonna work for me because it to me, I just feel like I'm overthinking it, but definitely the affirmations part works for me. So I'll definitely stick with that. But let's kind of walk through this process together right now and sort of see if it resonates. So the first part, and this part I really like, is to find something. And if you want to write it down, share it in the chats, whatever you want to do, but find something that you witness in your life that you get stuck. So what is an area of your life? It could be in your lifestyle, it could be like in your parenting. And I'll give you some examples that she gives in this journal. So some examples of areas that you could witness being stuck is I often feel reactive and not able to handle my emotions. I don't feel connected to my intuition. I don't feel that my needs are being honored in relationships. I feel pulled in many directions as I try to start my day. I'm unable to say no when colleagues request things of me. So just think through your day and write down a place in your life where you feel a little stuck. And then after you do that, then you're going to write down what I can change. So what is something that you can change? Remember, don't worry about your environment, the people around you. You can't change their behaviors. What is something that you can change? So here are some examples that she gave of ways that you can change. I can practice using deep belly breaths to regulate my body. I can practice connecting to my physical body where my intuition resides. I can practice being more aware of my wants and needs. I can practice creating a morning routine and starting the day with one small choice for myself. I can practice saying no to simple requests, such as lunch plans. So you should have written down, you're going to write down what I witnessed, and you'll write somewhere that you feel stuck in your life, and then what I can change. And then you'll write down something that you can do to change that for yourself. So for me, and I will share mine, and if anybody wants to share theirs, you're more than welcome. Mine, what I witness is I feel stuck in my head, taking myself seriously and afraid of what others will think if I let loose and have fun. And what I can change is I can focus on being more aware of my authentic self instead of what others might think. Eliza, did you want to share?
Sure. My big thing is I yell a lot. I noticed that because I noticed the people around me started yelling. But I can't control them yelling. But I did notice that there are two things that I have been helping me and that I want to continue to work on. Um, one is just connecting with the people that I'm fighting with, and like in a way that isn't argumentative, so that we have a chance to connect, so I can tell my body and show myself that they are safe people, that they're not out to hurt me, because I mean the close people in my life have hurt me before. And also these little things that have been on the internet, the loop earplugs. When my daughter starts to scream, I put those in, and it no longer makes me want to fight because it hurts my ears. So it helps me be able to talk more calmly to her. And that's my big goal right now, is talking calmly.
That's excellent. So I'm not gonna work through the whole practice that she gives in this journal, but she goes through, it's basically like 5 things, like I am practicing, like what you're practicing, what you're grateful for, an I am statement, what making a change in this area would allow you to feel, and then like how you're going to practice this change in your life today. For me, and if that sounds like it works for you, go get this journal regardless and try it out. Like try it for a couple of days. I tried it for a couple of days. What resonates really with me is those what I'm witnessing and what I can change. And then kind of putting the affirmations around it. So for mine, what I just shared, like the affirmation that I pulled out of that is I am light and fun. So it's like what if I'm feeling like I'm taking myself too seriously, I'm not able to be fun, I'm like overthinking things, I'm not being my true self, how do I sort of rewire that? Like what would be my end goal, my outcome from sort of changing that? And to me, that would be to feel light and fun. So I'm going to put as my affirmation and repeat to myself throughout the day and in stressful situations, I am light, I am fun. So that's what works for me. What works for me is to do those affirmations. And if you are not into journaling, like if you're not going to sit down, do this journal every day, read the book, do the assignments, all the stuff, I would say like doing the affirmations is one really big step. Like noticing where you feel stuck and then finding an affirmation that almost like combats that so that you can start telling your brain what you want it to know. Some other affirmations that have worked for me in the past is when my kids would be like going crazy, I would sometimes be saying to myself, like, oh my God, I don't have the freaking patience for this. So I switched that. I started using the affirmation in my head in those moments to, I have patience for this. I have patience for this. You know, if I'm feeling like I'm not like taking care of myself, like taking a shower, putting on makeup, like getting dressed each day, because I kind of feel like, what's the point? You know, then I might say an affirmation that day, like, I am worthy, or I've even used like, I am sexy, or, you know, I am like all these things. And that's something that you can just repeat throughout the day to yourself whenever you start feeling stuck in that area. So try that out. And then definitely go get this journal. So let's move into intention. And so here we're just going to talk about today, like what you're hoping to get out of this book club. And like I said, this book club is, yeah, you're welcome for the examples. Like I said, this book club is just as much for me as it is for you. I'm not coming here and saying like I'm the expert. I am on this journey. Like I need to do healing. I basically, like everything I'm telling to you, like I need somebody to say to me. So I'll share what I'm looking to get out of the book club. I am looking to sort of like let go of some control, learn to sort of like have more fun, like release a lot of the triggers and traumas. Because yeah, like Eliza said, it's like your body sometimes will react as if the people around you are not safe, even though it's like, you know, those people are safe, but your body reacts like they're not. And so I feel like I want to let go of a lot of that so that I can be my true self without that fear of sort of getting hurt. And the biggest thing that I'm hoping to learn is to sort of like feel my feelings instead of just talking about them and intellectualizing them. Like I can tell you why I think I'm feeling something, where I think it stems from, but I can't actually like sit there and feel it. Like I can't let the emotion sort of pass through me. And I feel like that building up over time is what's leaving me really almost feeling like stuck in my own body. Eliza, would you like to share?
I could actually maybe have a tip for you if you're feeling kind of, because my therapist told me this.
Sure.
So kind of when you're feeling like you intellectualize that you're feeling like angry, sad, scared, whatever. I actually try to put my body in that kind of emotion. Like if I'm sad, I'll listen to sad music, or anger. For me, it's music or a TV show that can help me kind of mirror that person. And then once I start feeling those feelings, I go to my safe space. For me, it's my closet. But I go and I sit down and I kind of cry and kind of talk to myself like if I were my own kid, kind of reparenting myself. And that has helped a lot. And I noticed that once I lost those emotions, or not lost, let go of those built up emotions, I kind of felt empty for a bit. But then it kind of gives you space to add in more in your life. So kind of reminding yourself, I'm letting these go so I can have room for new emotions. That helped me.
I love that. Thank you so much for that. Did you want to share what you were hoping to get out of the book club or the book?
Oh, yeah. I mean, I'm just trying to learn how to make a safe place for me and my family. Don't really have many examples of that. So you seem like a good role model, and I like this. I like where you're going with this. So I hope to learn more.
Thank you. All right, so we have reached the end. I have a couple of announcements. Replay and notes from this session will be in the community. You just go into groups and then you go to book club, which actually, if you're watching this on replay, you've already found it. I did change the agenda a little bit. And I posted it today in the community. The most notable changes is that for next week, I combined introduction and chapter 1. So try to read through chapter 1 for next week if you're reading the book. And then we're not going to take off for Halloween. That way, because we're already not scheduled to finish the book until like mid-January. So I don't want to like extend it too much longer. So we're going to actually have a session on Halloween. And then next week, the session's going to be a little bit earlier. It's going to be at 8 a.m. Once a month, I do like a ladies brunch, and this one just happens to be early. So next week will be at 8 a.m. And I want to change that in the community, but sometimes if your calendar is synced with the community calendar, it doesn't change right away. So just to be mindful of that.
What time zone?
Easter. I always forget like of the time zones. I gotta get in the habit of saying Eastern time. I'm in North Carolina. All right, well, this was awesome. Anything else to kind of add or share?
Thank you. You're awesome.
Thank you. Well, I'll talk to you next week or throughout the week in the group. You should definitely share that tidbit in the book club group about like how to get yourself into that mode of like feeling the feelings. That's very helpful. Thank you. All right, I'll see you next time.